What is up to all the difference makers out there? Happy New Year. Happy 2023. It has been a phenomenal year for me personally, for my family, for my business, work, consulting, but most specifically for this podcast, for Coffee and Grit. What a year, what a transformation. I could have never have really expected, or I never visioned what was going to happen throughout this year. So it's been really, really awesome. Now, these last couple days, I've sat back and I've looked and reflected on the year, and there's been 43 episodes of Coffee and Grit within this year, and just the growth of the amount of episodes, but the viewers, man, it is so awesome. You know, I remember going to family events and talking about my podcast because I was so freaking excited about the people I was having on, and my family not really paying attention to what I was talking about. I was like, all right, whatever, nobody's listening. And then going to a family event this year, and my uncle being like, "Why'd you never tell us you were on a podcast?" Like, you fuckers weren't listening. Like, so shout out Uncle Dave if you're listening right now. I've been trying to tell you, but you know what? Like, everybody and their brother has a podcast until all of a sudden it starts. Nobody sees the work that you're doing in the shadows until it starts to get the light on it, and that's what being able to have the podcast here at the Speakeasy Network, that's really what it's been able to do, is put the light on it. And so it's been exciting for me to be able to get these guests and get the light on them. But it's super cool being able to walk around town, like, you know, Halloween, people were trick-or-treating at our house being like, I listened to your podcast. Rick McKitty, shout out to my neighbor there. The junk removal guys at the golf outing, you know, just some Steve Siskowski, man, you're constantly just giving me shout out, shooting me texts, letting me know what you like. I just appreciate I appreciate it. It's super awesome. I never started out to be a podcaster. It was more about creating the little clips and branding my business and getting out there. And that's been working too. And so, speaking of that, we talk about the year and the year in review and the year in highlights. We talk 43 episodes, and across those episodes, I caught a series of 1 to maximum 4-minute clips that, if you follow me on social media, if you follow me on LinkedIn, Facebook, you'll see those clips are posted every week. And I thought it'd be really cool because these are the best of. These are the power, the money clips, and there's so much amazing content throughout the podcast. But these are the power clips that I've cut throughout the year. And so my treat to you, kick back. This is going to be a killer year, but you know what? Sometimes you need a little grit, and that's what, if not anything, the grit, the determination, the perseverance, the authenticity of my guests. Sit back, listen to these power clips, get some inspiration, and get ready to eat faces in 2023. Oh, and okay, so I forgot. Hey, we said 43 episodes. I cut all these clips as I was putting this content together. It's so funny. I thought maybe I'll have about 30 to 45 minutes of airtime. No, actually, it's about 2 hours and 20 minutes of clips throughout this year. That's how many power clips are out there. So because of that, we're giving you a treat. We're not going to force 2 hours and 20 minutes down your throat. We're going to do 2 straight weeks of the highlight clips. So what you're going to see for the next 2 weeks of episodes, this week and next week, you're going to get all the highlights, all the goodies, all the best of. So enjoy. Let me know what you want to see in 2023. Continue letting me know that feedback and that you're listening. It's definitely giving me that encouragement to go out and find some more killer guests for you this year.
I just remember that I was like, I don't think I can do it, you know? And then I remember sitting down and I was like, wait a minute. I am in, just as well as I've been enabling myself or enabling others around me, I have to learn this and take a lesson here.
Yeah.
I am enabling a company, and that is not fair to do to them. Remember me saying that?
Yep.
I'm wearing 5 hats, and I shouldn't be. I should be wearing 1 hat, and 1 hat I want to wear, and that is it.
Yep.
And if I want to, or I choose to do more than that, then this is for me. And right now, this is not for me.
Yep.
And when, you know, I was asked to kind of go out of my way to do all of these different things, I started noticing my worth.
Yeah.
So like this whole transformation of like, I got to hit this resignation button.
Yeah.
You know, to then what happens after that? I was so freaking scared. I was so scared. And immediately got the greatest response in the world from Kathy Plush, the owner of the company.
Yeah.
She said, I created this recovery coaching agency so that you could do exactly what you're
What is it
doing.
you're doing?
Go out there and give them some sparkle.
Yeah.
And remember, we're with you all the way.
That's awesome.
And I knew then it was time to rock and roll.
Yeah.
And before you knew it, everything opened up.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Book opened up. Makesh, from Zanzara Press is like, I could help you do your book, right?
Yep.
And I'm sitting here
It
thinking,
unfolded quick.
It went from March 3rd
Yeah.
was my last day to June 1st was when we rolled out the book.
Yeah.
So from that time to that time, for 4 months, I was on a mission.
It's so cool, and I've seen this happen with so many people I've worked with, that like once you start living it into your alignment, how it's like the parachute just opens.
Yep.
Because we have that worry, that fear. I know I did.
And we talked about it just before, leaning into your layers of surrender. See, I thought I had surrendered at that point, but the surrendering was when I left and had to step into my power and say, all right, Sparkle, this is where you're at. Remember, we said it. Well, where's your income going to come from if you do leave this? Are you going to be okay? And I kept thinking in my head, I don't know if I'm going to be okay. And I'm like, stop, Sparkle. Your book says, you follow your book, practice what you preach.
Yeah.
Your book says, when anxiety or chaos sets in, write 5 gratefuls down and read them to yourself. And I knew then, I was like, wait, if I'm going to do this, I better do it. And if I'm going to lose everything, well, you know what? Then I lose everything. But at this point, I'm a bank on myself. I bet on myself on this one.
Yeah.
I trust that I have enough people. I have a village. I have a lot of people who will not let this falter, nor myself. And I am very proud today to say that I believe in myself to do so. And I had to throw that out there in existence to manifest that and make it happen. And I've done nothing more but say there are levels of surrender and allowing the chakras to open up as well within me, mind, body, and spirit.
Yeah.
Taking those blockages away from my heart, and letting things in for the first time is just like, wow, compassion, understanding. That was the piece I was missing.
Yeah.
And so now, full circle coming back, it's like having the compassion for the company I left and watching them still just growing.
Yeah.
It just makes my heart smile.
That's awesome.
And just all the different people that I've had along this journey. Some are still with me, like yourself, and some are coming on.
Yeah.
So I think all of these things are just getting me ready for the next level. And I don't know what that next level is. But obviously today it's the live event, right?
Yep.
And the truth is, everyone has fears. Everyone.
Everyone.
It's a matter of how you do it. And it's not about powering through them either, like getting a band of horses and charging through. It's not about that, because that's not sustainable.
Yeah.
If you anyone can power through anything. Like some people will do like their 2-week diet. I keep going to weight loss. I'm not a weight loss coach, but that's just the easy thing that people know.
Yep.
And you can power through. I can do anything. I can starve myself for 2 weeks. It's like, but is that sustainable? Are you going to, on the flip side of that, are you going to continue maintaining that weight?
Yeah.
Or are you just going to go back to the other habits that kept you going? And it's not just about the habits. It's about, we could go deeper into the emotional piece and the trauma piece. Like, what's causing you to eat? Are you emotionally comforting yourself?
Yeah.
Are you soothing yourself? What's happening here? What does food mean to you? We could go into a lot of different aspects of that. But fear is just everyone has them. And I think that sometimes people think like, oh, well, you're a coach and you guys are unique, or it's like, no, I have had my slew of problems and I still do. Like, I am not perfect by any stretch of imagination.
As we're talking about being our best selves and giving to others and being with people who are influencing us in these positive ways, yet we have this cancel culture, which has gotten really toxic.
Mm-hmm. I was waiting on my edge of my seat for you to bring up the C word.
Yeah. And I think the reason that these things exist together side by side is because there's this invisible asterisk. And the invisible asterisk goes like this. You need to invest into other people and be a good person unless ... right? Unless they have different political opinions than you have. They are conservatives or they are liberals. Or maybe unless they're just kind of weird people, it's kind of socially awkward. We distance ourselves from them. Unless. And And I started seeing this invisible asterisk everywhere. And what happens is it gives us permission to shut out the other and to focus on just the people who make us feel good and who make us feel like we're being good people. And so one day I was on LinkedIn and I guess it was just a salty mood or something. And I came across one of these messages, and the woman had posted and said, make sure to surround yourself with the kind of people who are going to lift you up and help you to invest into you and help you be the right, the kind of person you want to be and that kind of thing. And I replied and meant it in a friendly way. I said, better yet, why not surround yourself with people who need you to invest into them? Thinking, okay, here I'm going to encourage people to just kind of, see the flip side of things. And she replied, and she, in all caps, I would strongly advise against that because there are these energy vampires out there waiting to suck the life out of you.
And you're like,
Ah, my goodness, I did not expect that kind of a reaction. But it really made me think, what kind of a world would this be if instead of worrying about how other people might take advantage of us, we started worrying about how we give advantage to others?
mm-hmm.
That's the whole idea behind the invisible asterisk, just seeing it and calling it out and saying, you know what, I'm going to break beyond that asterisk. I'm going to engage with people who are different from me, who make me feel uncomfortable. Maybe people who are opponents one way or another. Um, they're rivals at work. We're vying for the same promotion, or they're people that we just always butt heads with. Or,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to get to know some Republicans and invest into their lives. I'm going to get to know some Democrats and invest into their lives. Um, I recognize this person has said some racist things.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? They're a person, they're a human being, and they need love too. And that doesn't mean I have to accept their racism.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't mean I have to come against them to fix them. But because they're human, I need to love them. I need to invest into them. So, because after all, man, I'm messed up too.
Right. We're all human, right?
Yeah, and I need people that invest into me, and I hope that they will.
He's like, let's do this. And I was really taken back by that because I'm like, with what? We're going to just start a company? Like, no, we have a young daughter. And I was told by a lot of people having a young, like a toddler, that you can't start a business. So it's kind of like when you hear so many things, you kind of let it get to your head a little bit. And then we kind of talked to some family about it, and they're like, oh, well, that would be really risky. And it's just interesting. So then I talked to some of my, well,
I love your voice.
it's
True.
true.
It's so true. Yeah.
And then I talked to some of my friends that were entrepreneurs, and one of them is my mentor. And he was like, I think you should do it. You're young enough that if you fall, you'll pick yourself back up. And honestly, what more security is there than in yourself? And when he said that, I was like, wow, that's so impactful. And I came across another professional who he connected me with for HR services, and she said the same thing. She's like, I have the power to make more money, to stay where I'm at. And she's like, I would never entrust anyone else with that power. And being from a rural community, I've seen whole floors at insurance buildings be cleared out because there were budget cuts. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I'm not ready, but you got to jump before you're ready. And then I went to some Yes Network talks, and there was one particular person, Pasha Carter. She was a gymnast. She was a female, is a mom. And I was a gymnast in high school. And I guess I just saw a lot of traits in her that I had as well. And she was like, do it for your kids. Do it for you. You deserve this, and you've got to start before you're ready. And I'm like, okay. So I started before I was ready, and then the pandemic happened and everything was shut down, and I'm like, oh my gosh. But during that time I was working with one person, and it was a lead from a friend that's in the trades. I've been in the trades for 17 years, so I have a lot of friends and connections, so I feel pretty good about that.
Yeah.
But anyways, so he just so happened to be there doing a part of his work that day that I had the presentation. He's like, "So what's your plan?" And I'm like, "Well, I've been trained to come in and design these beautiful landscapes and sell them. So I have a proposal for installation." He was like, "Hell yeah!" And I'm like, "I don't know what's going to happen if I sell it, but I'm just going to give it my all and see what happens." He's like, "Oh, you're going to sell it. You're going to sell it." And I walked out and he's like, "So?" And I'm like, "I just sold a $70,000 landscape and I have a Traverse. I have a Traverse." And he was like, "Trisha, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. You can use my guys if you need. I'm going to, like, we're in this, girl. You got this. You got this." And I'm like, oh. So then I called my dad, biggest support system ever, like my biggest fan and my friend. And I was just like, "I just sold a huge landscape." And he's like, "Oh my gosh. So I quit my job. Do you have some hours for me?" And I was like, holy cow.
Oh my God.
I know. So,
Talk about things just like coming together through the universe, right?
And that was like the ultimate, yes, like this is gonna work.
One reason is because I really value their wisdom. I really value seniors' experience, and I also value their condition in life. You know, I had a grandmother who passed a few years ago, and she was about 89 years old, old black woman from Mississippi, and she never learned how to read and write. And at the end of her life, she started suffering from dementia. But she had, like, when I had the opportunity to visit with her, she had these, like, amazing stories of life and of history, like our history.
Yeah.
And you sit there and you listen, and like I consider myself like a quasi or a pseudo historian, and I love history, you know.
Me too.
And I love sitting there and just talking to her and listening to her. And what saddens me is that at the end of all of this life, and you lived and you loved and you had family and
you had memories and experiences.
Exactly, and you start to forget them. You forget your loved ones, and you forget your experiences, and you forget your life.
Yeah.
And that saddens me, you know. And in this fitness program is, I feel, a contribution to, you know, a method or a way to like combat that memory loss, and try to get people to be more cognitively active, not just physically active, but cognitively active, because at the end of the day, spirit, body, mind, we are our minds.
Oh yeah.
We are our
We
minds.
are our minds. Yeah.
You know, and I often tell people, like, you can be the fittest dude in the gym. You can be ripped up from head to toe.
Yeah.
But if you lose your mind, then you're just a ripped up, mindless soul.
There's a couple things through the education or the aspect of finance that are worth talking about. And first one is education.
Yeah.
Right? People don't know enough. And that thing that kind of frustrates me is we talk about a society that I have some of the most intelligent doctors and attorneys sitting in front of me. And I start talking finance and stocks and bonds and savings, and they're like, wait, what?
Yes,
Right? You
yeah.
can see their eyes gloss over. And the education is so important because there's just such a lack of financial education in our country. The financial literacy of millennials of our society is not good.
Yeah.
But there's just such a lack of education about what do I do? So I talked about, right, my family, my health, my wealth. Important, I'll worry about that later. Right? So how do we make that top of mind? And it doesn't have to be a financial planner, but it's just making it a priority.
Yeah.
Saying we go to work every day to work really, really hard. Is our net worth, is our money working just as hard? Is our net worth appreciating at the end of each year? Yes, we always have those setbacks, right? That blueprint's going to change. But are we doing those things? Are we educated to know what we should be doing, right? The kiss of death, the water cooler conversation, all the time, right? We stand around the water cooler. This is a great idea. I'm doing this. People come ask me, oh, my colleague said this. I have to be doing this because my colleague is. Well, sir, you're 65 and you're about to retire. Your colleague's 32. You guys are not in the same risk profile, right? You guys have very different financial situations.
Yes.
But no one ever talks about the losses or the bad things. It's only the
Yeah,
good. It's always the good, right? It's like social media. It's only the good.
Yep.
Right? But life is real, right? And finances are real. And so it's willing to just, again, understand and accept that education of, actually understanding and willing to accept that change, right? And having the education to understand and accept that, right? That's what it comes down to. So it's that education, that inspiration, but ultimately it's that peace of mind, right? That when you're doing anything in life, you should have that peace of mind. So my goal is to assist in that peace of mind, financial planning wise, right? That my clients, you can put your head in your pillow and go, okay, I have a blueprint. I'm not where I want to be. I know that, and that's okay. But I have a blueprint, right? I think it was Warren Buffett, right? Or probably someone way smarter than me. But what's the best time to plant a tree?
Yeah.
Right? 20 years ago. When's the next best time? Today.
Yeah.
And that's what we have to embrace and think about that is going, we can't dwell on the fact that 20 years ago we didn't do this.
Yeah.
Right? We can't, because unfortunately people do all the time. And that's when you get like these woulda, coulda, shouldas. And then they get to the point where they're at their retirement and they go, oh no. Right? We don't even want that, right? So let's take that whole step back and go, okay, how do we get ahead of that when we're in the wouldas or the couldas? Mm-hmm. You know, and there are a lot of people that I talk to, they're like, oh man, I really would have seen you. I really should have seen you. I really could have seen you. But I didn't, for whatever reason was. Because again, it's just that unknown, that scary fact of like, it's money. Oh, it's a financial advisor. Bringing me off. Ripping me off. And it's like, that's not true, right? We can have this conversation, understand what that person is, their background, their history, their designations. Are they a fiduciary? All those things, right? I mean, educate yourself, but embrace it, right? There's help there. There's help out there that if you ask the right questions and see the right people, you'll be in a good spot.
I have put together this event and we're in the process of launching it. And it is a smorgasbord, if you want to say, of several of the amazing people that have crossed my path. I'm doing it for two reasons. One is to really say thank you to these people. They are doing incredible things in this world. They're making a difference. They've done their work. They're still doing their work, and they're helping other people to do their work. But it was just a matter of them being in my life and being who they are that really continued to help me build what I call my faith over fear muscle. It really, I've really kind of went through a bunch of stuff, kind of figuring out what is this event supposed to really be focused on? What do these people really help me do in my journey? And it is, we stand on one of two podiums at every single moment of our lives. We are either, well, I guess we stand on them both, but we're either leaning towards the faith side of things or the fear side of things. And I don't say faith to have a religious connotation in any way, shape, or form. It truly is just faith in the fact that we are all here for a reason. And the universe is here to conspire with us and for us and is ready and waiting and is only limited by us leaning a little further on the fear podium than just being ourselves, putting down the stick of self-abuse, self-beating self up, and really leaning into all that's available in here for us. So giving it back and saying thank you, but then paying forward to people who were in shoes where I was and where I am, quite honestly. I mean, I still have several of these people that mentor and coach me on a regular basis. So paying it forward to others who may feel stuck and who may be at the top of a building or in the middle of the ladder or wherever the heck you are, but you know that's not exactly where you want to be, but you kind of keep hitting this invisible wall and you're like, what the heck am I banging my head on? I don't understand.
One was the really cool thing is like, what if you don't have to climb all the way up the wrong building? What if you could start doing the work before and really identify which building you want to put the ladder on? The change is happening now. We can see it. If you're struggling to keep your employees, you can see that it's happening. And don't be Blockbuster. Don't be these companies that think that they can keep doing business the way they've always done it and that they're going to survive, because we've seen it happen time and time again with organizations that didn't think they were going to have to change. And guess what? They don't exist anymore.
And the Walmarts, the Targets, like those are tough roles. What are you doing to support them? Telling them that there's college programs, telling them this, telling them that. Do you even know the name? Like, half of their companies on food stamps. Like, I mean, it's time for a shift. It's time. These enormous companies can disappear overnight because when you start having to close stores, not because you can't sell, but because you have nobody to restock the shelves.
Yeah.
That's a bigger issue, right? Like, because when you have a workforce that is self-inspired, a workforce that's self-empowered, and they feel valued, that's where the innovation comes. And when you start giving people on, that the workers, the ones that are doing these roles every day, in and out, but they're passionate for what they do, they start coming up with quicker, easier ways. They start getting more creative about how they can innovate their job to make it easier for themselves. But what they don't realize they're doing is they're doing that for the organization, right? And little by little, you just create this whole shift. And once this shift happens, the whole company dynamic changes. I want to make impact.
Yeah.
I want to shift souls. I want to show people who they can be at their best. I want to inspire people to dig and look for it themselves. I want to be there to guide them through the process as they let me. And I want to show them what they can really accomplish, who they really can be if they want it.
That's how it works. You find out the problems. You find the problems from people, and you resolve them. And I think it's one of the most important things. I'm giving them time back that they want. They want time to do other things. You got to take your kids to the soccer game, dance, ice skating lessons, whatever you're doing.
Yep.
My kid's in robotics and he's in karate. I get it. We're not just 9-to-5ers. We have a full day of work every day as parents, as family members, whatever it is. There's always a full day of work, and I get the struggles. I get that we need some of that time back. And the last thing I want to do is come home and worry about cleaning, or on the weekend, spend a whole weekend cleaning. No, I want to go see the Ice Fest. I want to go see downtown Brighton. I want to go see downtown Howell. I want to go to these new restaurants that are building up. I want to go to these new bars, these new clubs, these new shops.
Yeah.
I can't. I got to clean my house.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not the only reason you can't. But there's things
stuff that you got to get done.
Sit in the back of your head that we only have an hour.
Yeah.
Quit putting time on your family. You know what I mean? Let's give that time back to you, and that's what our goal is. You know what I mean?
Why is it important for a teacher or an educator to understand their why?
Oh. Teacher, educator, business professional, anybody in the Marine Corps. My husband's in the Marines. Anybody in active duty or any service industry. Anybody at all needs to know their why, because we live in a crazy world, right?
Yep.
Everybody could just give up so easily. We need to know what drives us from this conversation to my next conversation. What takes me from morning to afternoon? What takes me from today to tomorrow to next month?
What gets me through the difficult shit? What gets me through the kid that spits in my face, or the...
I have 2 toddlers. Just throwing that out there. Anyway, so we have to let our why, our purpose, our values, not so much our why, I feel like that's overused. More our values, our core values. We have to let these define us, so that during a difficult situation or difficult conversation, we're not defined by our circumstance. We're not defined by the feeling we have after we leave a difficult conversation.
My mission in my business is to help people overcome that piece and realize you carry out this vision. If you're thinking about this all the time, if this keeps coming up in your head,
yes,
you were meant to do it.
Yes. Oh my God, that is so true. If it keeps coming up for you, it's for you.
Yes.
You can't miss what's for you. It's for you for a reason. And we don't know what that reason is. We don't know, how it will impact the world.
Yeah.
Even just if it's one person that comes in and, has an experience by eating your cupcake. It's like, and I don't know if you've ever seen, I think it's Simply Irresistible. I think Sarah Michelle Gellar's in it.
Okay, I've not seen
And
this.
she actually owns a restaurant, and her emotions, she realizes, are getting passed into the food she's making. So she has a day where she's crying, and everyone's out there eating the soup and they're all crying, and it's really a cute movie. But it's so true. Our energy does transfer into what we're doing. Yeah. You're putting your love, and that's why I love mom and pop places, or local community restaurants and stores and everything, because someone's blood, sweat, and tears are absolutely invested into that.
Soul inside.
There's a soul, connection into that. And especially being an empath, it's I pick up on that and I really feed on that. And so I feel nourished. Literally nourished by it, physically, energetically, mentally.
It's fascinating. I love learning about myself. I love learning about other people because, again, the more you know and the better you can communicate and the better you can communicate to individual people, the more successful you can be.
Absolutely. And sometimes we have these blind spots, like, when you're driving and you got your blind spots, you don't know, but there could be something there until you look and you're like, oh, that's interesting. And when you look at it through the lens of any conversation, through the lens of human wiring, it could really explain why you're getting triggered. Just like the wife, who came up to me said, she's like, oh my gosh. And it opened up a whole new world for that relationship, right? So you have two people that are at odds. And it was interesting. I was coaching this one business owner. She was in one of our programs, and she called me one day and she said, oh my gosh, my assistant just blew up at me. I said, well, what happened? She said, well, we hired her because she's more methodical. She's going to follow up and follow through on things that I need her to. And I'm juggling multiple things. And all of a sudden she just blew up. I said, well, what happened? And she kept describing in her description that she kept interrupting her. Now, remember, somebody higher on that scale, not communication, but the certainty or the patience scale, higher on the patience scale, they are very focused, and their brain, when you interrupt them, is still thinking about this one thing, and they get sort of triggered because interruptions are inefficient to them. So it's very frustrating for their brain to come to a stopping point. And she was always interrupting her because she can multitask. She can, interrupt what she's doing. That's the way her brain functions. And I said, you have to manage her the way she is best managed. And that is identify a specific time during the day to create your priorities. If you need to interrupt her, send her an email to say, come see me when you get a moment, a stopping point that allows her to come to the stopping point, come see the CEO, and then it works for the both of them. Her productivity increased 40% in 30 days once she so it could be really simple things that make a huge difference in terms of building high performance teams, in terms of productivity, and in terms of revenue.
During that time, a lot of things came to light, I think, for a lot of people, right? And with the day job, it just was obvious, like, you only get one chance at life. You only get one chance at this, right? Like, go for it. You know what I mean? What do you got to lose? And I was looking for advice in all different circles, right? Because like I said, I wanted that clear-cut answer, right? And I kept asking people, and I remember I reached out to another DJ, Ryan Lehman, actually from the Ohio DJ Pros. Shout out to Ryan Lehman. But I reached out to him. He's got an awesome business down in Ohio, right? An awesome DJ business, and he's got multiple offices and employees, and so I would lean on him for advice, and he was like, look, man, he's like, even if it goes bad, you could always go back to exactly where you're at. Like, if you make this leap and it goes wrong, he's like, I'm sure if you leave on good terms with your day job, you still are an awesome DJ at the end of the day. So he gave me that confidence to take that leap, right? Yeah. It was one of the big nuggets of wisdom I was seeking. Because you'll get people who would say the total opposite, like, don't do that, you're crazy, which was usually what was going on in my own head, Yeah.
How did you come up with Bash? And
that's funny, yeah. So I was struggling, right? Like, because I was DJ Sean Sound and Lighting for so long. Actually, in the very, very beginning, like 20 years ago, I was Awesome Entertainment for like a couple of years in the phone book because my dad's advice was, you need to have the letter A so you can be first in the phone book, boy. So I was Awesome Entertainment, and then some other guy came out, Amazing Entertainment. I was like, oh, this is tacky.
He beat you by the M.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I was like, this is tacky. So, yeah, he would have went above me. So I just switched to, just be myself, DJ Sean Sound and Lighting, and it was going great. And then we started adding photo booths. Then it became DJ Sean Sound and Lighting and photo booths. And it just was getting, and then I started adding team members. So, you know, they booked DJ Sean Sound and Lighting, but they'd get DJ Joe. So, you know, rightfully so, clients were getting a little confused, you know.
They're like, DJ Sean. No, I'm Joe.
Yeah, and my logos on my shirt, you know, almost made it look like your name tag. So it was like, are you Sean or are you not? Who's Sean? So
who is the Sean?
Who is the Sean? Go see Sean. So, you know, during, and this was even before COVID, once again, I was daydreaming of rebranding and how do I do this, right? Another one of those, how do you do this questions. And honestly, silver lining, once again, of COVID was it gave a lot of people, I think, that time to reinvent themselves a little bit, redefine their path, you know. And so I was trying to struggle. I remember I'd tell my wife different names every other night. What do you think about Super Duper Awesome DJs or whatever it was, right? Like I remember my one thing, I was trying to stay away from. I wanted to promote and convey the fact that without knowing at the time, right, that we are there to bring the energy, to make it fun, to make it upbeat. There's, you know, our style of DJing and being an event host and photo booths is interactive, high energy, you know, outside of the box. Every company had this crazy, luxurious logo, and I was like, no. Yeah. I was like, I want to be like, boom, we are in your face, we're here to party. We're here to have a good time. In fact, don't just throw a party, throw a bash, right?
What is up, Coffee and Grit? Oh my God, you're probably noticing a huge difference. First off, you're not just opening up to awkward conversation to begin. We have a really cool, kick-ass song to start off with, and super excited. The big news is I've transferred over Coffee and Grit over to Speakeasy Broadcast Studios downtown Brighton, and this is just a top-class setup. I'm telling you what, already my guests are already talking about. They've been thinking about starting a podcast for a while, and instead of having to do all the work, and believe me, I can tell you and attest to this, there's so much work putting into doing a podcast. Just coming here, having Grant in the studio, setting us up with the cameras, having this first-class sound. I'm so excited to be here. So you'll see a huge change with Coffee and Grit and see it go up to the next level. And thank you for tuning in. Looking forward to getting even bigger and having new people listening to us. Oh, and I'm so excited for this. First off, it's my birthday episode. Second off, I have an amazing, amazing couple people in the studio today.
Some of the differences is that I recognized very early when I met her. I'll go into when I evaluated her. I had an orthopedic eval. I was at an orthopedic clinic. I was there. She did have left arm weakness, left leg weakness, some visual tracking issues, some balance issues. Certainly there were the fair share of things that I could address on an orthopedic eval. But I recognized really quickly that there was a lot of pain. There was a lack of joy and almost a lack of desire to keep moving forward if that was going to be all that life was. And so I flipped that orthopedic eval over to the blank side of the back side of that paper and did something called the PEO model, person, environment, occupation. And I drew 3 circles. And I said, Shirley, tell me about the person that you were and tell me about the person that you are. And tell me about the occupations that you had and the roles you had in life, and tell me about the roles you have now and the occupations you have now. And then I said, tell me about the environments that you went in and the environments that you lived in and you loved to be in before, and tell me about the environments you're in now. And it was very clear to me that this woman didn't leave her house for 9 years. She kept her blinds drawn. It was dark. She had so much sensory overload. She kept the lights and the sounds out. She tuned out people in her life. She tuned out friendships. Her cognitive issues were so severe that it made it hard for her to do the simple things in life, like go to the bank, go to the grocery store, go to a sporting event. This woman who loves sports couldn't go to a sporting event because she might not remember where she parked or how to get there or how to find her car or how to deal with the noises and the sounds and the sirens and the horns. So I saw someone who was such a special person that had no joy. And I might have been the first therapist to say, what brings you joy? Shirley, what did you say?
Nothing. Number one, I didn't even know what that meant. I was definitely just broken. I didn't know where to start. I didn't know what made me happy, what made me sad. I was just in a total dark place.
Something I didn't know about your story, and this is what's really cool that keeps unpacking, is I was reading your notes. What inspired you to go into therapy in the first place?
Yeah, my dad is an occupational therapist. And I remember as a young 5 or 6 year old going to work with him one day. And he was working with someone with a very severe brain injury, someone who drooled constantly, always wore a bib, had no language except for maybe vocalizations that sounded kind of like yelling. And my dad was working with him, and they were laughing so hard that they both ended up crying. And I remember thinking, that is beautiful. Like, someone in that chair who has the physical disability that he has, my dad was able to bring joy to him and laugh. And I just knew I either wanted to be an OT like my dad, or I wanted to be an art teacher, because I'm really creative and I love using my brain that way too. And so that was my first inkling into OT.
So what's really cool about this, I if any of my listeners know that I believe that we have a purpose. We're here for a reason. And a lot of times when we're younger, we have this idea of what we want to be. I knew that when I was younger in high school, I wanted to either be a psychologist or a therapist, because I wanted to help other messed up people like me, or I wanted to be a sports journalist. And as I look at now, I didn't do any of those traditional routes. And I'm literally, a big capacity of my coaching is being a therapist and working with people through their mental challenges. And then I create all this content, and it ties into that journalist piece. And so when I read that about you and heard that piece about your dad and watching that happen, I was like, of course, that makes so much sense of why this whole thing happened in the first place, is seeing that guy laugh and seeing your dad and him laugh back and forth, and how much joy he brought, how much that had to be impressionable on you.
It was. And it's interesting that you bring that story up, because Shirley and I have talked so much about how laughter has been such a key piece to every single one of our therapy sessions. We can't take ourselves too serious. I mean, when you're working on, okay, let's try and get through this automatic door without a panic attack, you can't help but laugh at yourself a little bit, because it sounds silly sometimes. Or let's put an apple in a cart and then let's leave the cart. And that's our goal. Like, baby step, baby goals. You have to laugh, because, she was running the show. She was the woman in charge at the training school. She was the one running the ropes courses for these kids. She was someone that took them to Red Wings games and organized dances. And now our goal is to put an apple in a cart. And so you have to not take yourself too serious, and you have to laugh with each other. And so I'm glad you brought that up, because laughter, positive psychology is so important, and laughter has been huge.
So the acronym FORWARD, you go into a conversation thinking about 4 things. Here's the acronym. So F is family, O is occupation, R is recreation, D is dreams.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
So if you can anchor any of the conversation pieces back to the Ford model, then you're getting to know somebody on a different level. Right? It's not just surface level conversation like, how's the weather? How's this? But like, as I'm touring someone's home, I'm looking for something that I can pull one of these 4 anchor points back to, whether it's family. If I walk into a house and they have pictures on their walls of their grandkids and their kids, okay, this is a very family-oriented individual. Mm-hmm. They're very proud of their grandkids. They're very proud of the family that they've built. Dig into that. Grandparents love to talk about kids. Yeah. Right. And then if I'm in the same house and I go into the guy's office and he's got sailboats or some war stuff on the wall. Okay, now I got something to talk about. Either it's recreational, occupational, right? He might have been in the military. Yep. He might just love sailing. Like, now I'm drawing that out. Like, now I know the questions to ask. Now I can get to somebody. And if they are doing the talking, right, then I'm doing my job, right? I've got them talking to me and they're engaged.
Yes. Yep.
That's the wonderful part about it. And that's, constantly, like, this is probably one of the only podcast I've shared a lot of this on, of like really the psychology in sales.
Psychology in sales. It is a psychology.
Yeah.
I love and to highlight what you just said. If they're doing all the talking, you did your job. I think, again, that's a stigma in sales that the fastest talker, the slickest talker, the person that has all the answers. We put so much pressure on ourselves in sales. When I say sales is so easy, but we make it so hard, we feel like we have to have all the answers. And that's why most of the time we're on skates, we're playing defense. Mm-hmm. If you're playing offense, you're sitting there asking them questions. And guess what? People like talking about themselves. They like talking about their grandkids. They like talking about the sports teams they follow. They like talking about serving time in the military or their experiences. And so when you see there's a cool picture on the wall, there's probably a reason why that's on the wall, right?
Right. Yeah. And after you leave that interaction, the one thing that person's going to be thinking about is how you made them feel.
How you made them feel. Yep.
When I was in college, I said, well, I realized one day, what's the strongest force in the universe? What's the teenagers need to be independent, to be in charge? Mm-hmm. And I thought if we could channel that force into a positive direction, instead of the negative direction I channeled it to for a long time when I was a teenager and became a suicidal teen living on the streets in Detroit, man, what if we could channel it to a positive place? And so I designed a system to do that and put them in charge of everything. This total self-responsibility, total ownership is really powerful. And Dr. Kimball, who trained us as master teachers, he trained us as master teachers at U of D Mercy now, at Mercy College then. But Dr. Kimball, I've shared this principle with you. It's the stop yourself principle. That's what we call it at Raven. And every time you're about to do something for a student or your classroom as a whole, stop yourself. Teach them how to do it without you having to tell them how or tell them to do it or have to even be there. And so that changed my life forever. I thought, I'll never work a day in my life if I do that. And so I never wrote a test my entire teaching career. I never created a worksheet. I taught them how to do it. I stopped myself and said, well, let's teach them how to do it. So total ownership. And guess what happened? Let's talk about results and productivity. I used to have to start exam weeks at least a week earlier than the rest of the school, because my students created an exam that took them 6 or 7 hours to complete. So they couldn't do it in one class period. So I had to start a week early because they needed 6 or 7 extra days to get it done. But see, they created that.
Yeah.
So that was the secret sauce. That's when people were, why did you start the Raven Institute? Because everyone always told me to. Because everyone was always like, "What are you doing here? This isn't happening anywhere else." And I was like, "Well, this is the secret. Why aren't we doing this everywhere? Everywhere, every workspace, every family. Quit telling each other what to do and ask each other. And what you say, listen.
Yes.
So now listen to each other, and you're going to come up with some amazing, positive strategies for change. We always called it. This is how the brain works. Dr. Kimball, again, from Mercy College, he taught me one day, I think it was the first day of education classes, he said the brain only retains 10% of what's lectured to it, and it remembers 90% of what it teaches someone else. So I looked at the guy next to me. I said, I'm just going to create a classroom full of teachers. And my next sentence was, I'll never work a day in my life.
For our agents, if we can help the person we're talking to have a deeper understanding of why they're asking for us to do something for them, that's really when we can create a deeper relationship and an understanding of insurance. So we teach everybody in our office, what's the emotional need we're trying to satisfy? Is it to save money? Because that's often a lot of what it is. But sometimes there's a fear. What happens if I file a claim? What happens if I add my daughter? What happens if I let someone drive my car? Those emotional needs oftentimes have to be satisfied in some way, shape, or form. And where people feel like they're not being heard or the reality is being negated, they don't want to do business with that individual or that company.
No, most people talk about in surface problems.
Yes.
They don't get to the root where you're looking for.
Exactly. Because if we can take a look and go, okay, so you're telling me you need this policy to start on July 18th. Why is that? Well, that's when my other policy expires. Okay, it's the middle of June. What if we save you $200 a month? Would you change sooner than that? Oh, yeah. Well, that makes sense. Okay, so is it a psychological need to have things be continuous that person is looking for? Or why are they looking so far ahead? We love it when people do that because we often have the time to really deep sea dive into a lot of their insurance needs, as opposed to someone who calls up and says, I need to get this policy today. Why do you have that need today? Closing fell through or is about to fall through because my other insurance quote did this, that, or the other thing, or my agent, or this happened. Okay, no problem. Let's slow down. Let's make sure that we can fully understand what you're trying to accomplish, why you're trying to accomplish it, and how we're going to do that together. We don't underwrite insurance policies typically in a day, but we can move at the speed of life. And that's a relationship thing where we want to make sure and cement it instead of just becoming that transactional, oh, I need insurance, you're the guy I get it from.
Yep. Because then when that happens, when you're just the guy that you get insurance from, when there's a rate that's lower or they see something that it's easy to leave.
It's easy to go. And the tagline for the Authentic Agent podcast is sometimes agitated, always authentic, because it frustrates the heck out of us when we see that someone's calling and say, oh, I need to cancel my policies. Oh, we just talked to you a couple months ago. Everything was fine, but something changes. And we often don't know what that is. So if we can help folks realize that, hey, we're on your side. If something changes, let us know. We can often, if there's a change, your insurance should probably have to change too.
Yes.
Household makeup, birth, death, divorce, marriage, all these things happen. And a lot of times the insurance agent is the last one to find out about it.
You've said the word core values quite a bit, and I know that's a major piece of your organization. What are your core values, and how really does that relate not only to your culture, but even selling to clients?
So the core values that we have are commitment, hard work, individual responsibility, respect, and professionalism. And, core values are things that some companies just put up on the wall, and that's the end of it. We don't do that. We try to live by those every day. We sell based on those. We evaluate potential partnerships with new customers based on the core values. We hire new employees centered around the core values. We reward, we discipline, we terminate, all centered around those core values. And when I say we terminate, sometimes we terminate customers that don't fit the core values. We've had to do that before. So not everybody's a great fit, and sometimes they're a great fit for somebody else. So it's sort of there's in business, there's a million things that come at you every day and can really make you go sideways and lose focus of what you're trying to accomplish. So the core values are the things that we have to go back to that sort of help us guide the ship every day. It's this little rudder on the back end of the ship, but it's very powerful.
It keeps making me think that as an entrepreneur, there are so many decisions, and you can get distracted very, very quickly. You can go down a rabbit hole very, very quickly. But when you have those core values, it's kind of like your compass.
Yes.
It keeps you on track. If it comes down to a decision here or here, does it fit the core values?
That's right.
If it comes down to a person, do they fit the core values?
That's right.
If I've done anything well, right, over the years, I've been nice to people, right? I've displayed kindness frequently, intentionally. And like, if you've got an issue, I'm like Vanilla Ice. I'll solve it. What can I do, man? I'm gonna try and help you get to where you want to go, and that's it, man. And I wish more people would take the time and expend that energy in that way, because it's a big world. We got a lot to do, and it's easier to get it done when we've got help.
How did you always realize this, or when you started networking, did you have to do like I did and stumble and try to figure it out and have awkward conversations, or did you just kind of figure it out? How did this all roll out?
This is fun. I'm glad you asked this question. The reason I was good at it is twofold. I listen really, really well. I listen well. I speak well, right? I'm a better listener than a speaker. And the second one is my memory's tight, right? Like I see angles and I connect dots and I care, that was it. And so I don't know that there was a time that I was fumbling around in it, just because giving seems so natural to me and helping others. And so I got it pretty early, and I got fortunate. Bob Berg was a speaker at one of our all group events. So I met Bob in the late 90s.
Wow.
And yeah, so I got to watch him, and I forget I don't remember if he did Endless Referrals. I think he did. And he had just come out with a book called Winning Without Intimidation.
Okay.
And it's a super underrated book, and it's all communications, and I have a master's degree in communications, or as my friends back then said, common sense. But
common sense, as you and I both know, is not common whatsoever, which makes it so important.
It's so not common. It's ridiculous, right?
You named, though, to me, I think the three keys to being a successful networker, and it's who you are, which is why you just landed in it and we're good.
All the shoulds and ought tos in the world that keep people paralyzed, right? I mean, I've lost track of how many university staff that I've heard, oh, I just have 5 more years until I get retirement, so I'm just going to stick it out in this job that I hate. It's just like, why? Because then I'll be safe. So great. Yeah. So now you're going to be miserable, probably ill health and whatever, but it's just 5 years. And then after that, I can do it. It's like, well, okay, if that's how you're choosing to look at this.
How much time do you have left on the earth? You don't know.
You don't know. And so
5 years.
Well, and this is whenever I see, like, a dear friend had a police officer die recently, or anytime I've had someone in my life die, it's like, stop.
Yep.
Stop. And that was kind of what cleared me up about this job. It's just like, that person, okay, am I actually happy? No. Am I suffering through this? Yes. Do I really want to do this? No. How am I going to die tomorrow and die unhappy? Right. Yep. And I've mentioned this in other podcasts. I don't know if I mentioned this with you, but a lot of times people think that they can't do whatever they want, and that's not true. What they have is an obligation. Like I mentioned, I can just walk out of this interview right now. It'd be weird, but I had my choice to do it. Right.
Me and John would be like,
I'm done. I'm just done, man. But we can, though, right? And and the thing is it comes back to when I was saying learning to say no. Learning to say no is our choice.
Yeah.
And it may be uncomfortable. It may feel ungood, but let's go through that emotion, walk through that wall of uncomfortable, and there's a gift on the other side of it.
Part of the reason why I wanted to run is I wanted to advocate for the people who maybe didn't have the voice to advocate for themselves. I saw that a lot when I was, as a lost parent, you connect with people who have these stories and they don't necessarily want to share them. Mm-hmm. Or, people who have kids on the spectrum or have special needs and don't know how to encounter things at school, don't want to speak up. My parents always taught me to speak up. Squeaky wheel gets the grease. So that's definitely an area where I'm not afraid, to be an advocate. And so I thought, okay, I'm already doing this in so many ways. And that was that thing, we had our meetings and I thought it was, when we got together, I thought it was going to be because you're coaching me on my business.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it turned out this one summer meeting a year ago turned out to be a big change of direction for me. So
that's super awesome.
Yeah.
It's I didn't know, so sitting down, I'm like, I don't feel like what I'm supposed to be doing is coaching her on her business. I don't know what it is. Yeah. I knew that you would say, hey, let's have another meeting. And I'm like, I'm not sure what this is, but however I can help, I can help.
And I was like, hey,
this
Jason,
kept unfolding. It kept coming up.
Is it okay if we don't talk about my business?
I know. Every time you were not coming to talk about the business. And I think that third time I'm like, listen, every conversation is revolved around this. Mm-hmm. If you don't do it, what happens? Does his voice go away?
Right. That was
or does it get louder?
That voice became louder and louder until I met you. And then it was like a roar, like your business, right? So I think that as things have evolved for me, I've really thought about what was holding me back, right? Mm-hmm. And I attended a couple different seminars where people talked about their experience before they went into working in Congress or state legislature. And what I found is that we each have a certain background or experience that we can bring to the table. And it wasn't until I started writing everything down that I thought, wow, okay, I have had a lot of experience with things that people can relate to or that can affect people.
Yeah.
We went through financial issues because insurance didn't cover autism therapies. We went through job loss during COVID. I'm a small business owner. I navigated through COVID. So there's been a lot that I've encountered over the years in working in industry and being a mother and having to step down because childcare wasn't affordable to be able to continue working. There's a lot of things that I have experience in that I can bring to the table.
Crazy story about this. I've golfed a ton. Ali Khan and I have golfed a ton together. He works with me, but we do a lot of golf scrambles together, and he's so much fun. So we do it all the time, and we have for years. And my dad Walt got me into golf years ago, and he's golfed with Ali Khan a lot, myself. So we're down there, Special Olympics, and our families are there, and our families would walk and follow us like we're pros, basically, kind of, right? It was kind of surreal. And so we're in golf carts. So the 16th green and the 17th tee box were quite a ways apart from each other. So I ended up, the first 2 days, hopped on the cart, Con and I shot over, and no one was in front of us, so we teed up and hit. And next, by the time we got up to the green, our family rounded the corner and came down and made it up there. So the third day comes around, and we're on the same hole. Same thing happened. We got finished, hopped in the cart, went over. But fortunately for us, there's people on that green. So we got held up at the tee box. And that gave enough time for my family to come around the corner and down the hill. His family, his dad was there, and my mom got down. My wife's pregnant, and she had the stroller with our daughter in it, so she was back a little ways. And my mother got closer, and as she got closer, the people got off the green before, and out of nowhere, this is how I know that it's working the right thing is that my mom got closer and she said, "All right, Kurt, Dad's with you in spirit. He's going to help you. He's going to help you get a hole in one right now. You can do it. All right, I love you." And I kind of looked up and I'm like, "All right," kind of humoring her. "All right, Dad, you ready?" And I had it on the tee already, and I said, "Show me the line." And that's the saying him and I joked about before he passed. And I teed it up, I hit it, and it went in. I got a hole in one. She called my shot before. It was unbelievable. I just dropped my club and started running right to my mom. And when you're in your addiction and you get in a car accident at a young age, I've disappointed my mom more than I could shake a stick at. We've had a lot of not a good fun conversations coming to see me in rehab, and like it's had its.
You even had your proud moments.
And I'll never forget her face for as long as I live. It was pure joy. It was excitement. She's jumping up and down and she's yelling, "It was Dad! It was Dad!" And I ran up, she jumped into my arms. She had tears going, I have tears. My wife comes from behind, pushing the stroller, almost tackles me. I seen it. And I thought, how amazing is that? Finally, the dust settled and I said, "Mom, what in the hell possessed you to say that? Like what came?" She said, "Kurt, I don't know. I didn't think about it. I just said it. Something came over." And I said, "That's the Holy Spirit."
Yeah, it is.
It changed my life forever. Before I was 1 foot in, 1 foot out with my faith and just trying to do the right thing and constantly reminder of every day. At that moment, I knew that the Lord was going to work through me and through I was where I was supposed to be. It's his thing. And so I had him go first for everything, Ali Khan. And so the last day, we're going on the podium to get our medals. And he goes first. And so they put the medal around his neck. And then the guy backs up and grabs my medal and puts it around me. And Ali Khan does this thing where he gets really excited. He puts his fingers on his nose like this. And he did it like 3 times. And then that guy backed up and he leaned in and he gave me the biggest hug. And he squeezed and he said, "I love you so much, Kurt." And I thought, that's what life's about. I just help make a wonderful moment for a wonderful human that I will never forget. He did it just as much as for me as I did for him. We were there together to experience it. He was in my wedding. I love him to death. And I'm so happy that he gets to celebrate this for the rest of his life. It's unbelievable. And he deserves it. So
I love how you said, I'm helping him, he's helping me.
He's done just as much for me as I've done for him. Back to my drinking days, I'll never forget. I was in rehab, just got out or something. And, that's it. You're low. You disappointed a lot of people. You've hurt a lot of people. You've done a lot of things that it's hard to look in the mirror at times. You start hating yourself. And not Con. He would tell me he loved me just as much at my lows as he has my highs. And for that, I'm forever grateful. He's literally, that's why I feel like he's
love.
100%. And it is. That's why I feel like he's God's image of man. Like that's what it should be like, not what you have or what you did. It's how can we help each other out, and that's what he's done for me and I've done for him. We help each other out and we really enjoy each other's companies. There's nothing like getting him laughing in stitches. It's great.
What is the power in being that outsider looking in, or being that you're not the full-time employee? What is the power in that?
Well, I think there's a power in being objective. First I walk into a situation that I don't know that, Will and Becky went to high school together, or so-and-so had a project that fell apart, or I don't know any backstory, and I just take people at face level. And I usually try to do some team health building. I mean, we work through all of these things. Mm-hmm. I think there's really a lot of value in not being there every day, because, Tuesday was intense and we were all doing this. But then, Wednesday I'm talking to another client. Two things. One, I have that time to process. I have time away from, I don't have to come in the next morning and see those people. But I have other clients. And it's happened within a week. The, client A was struggling with something and client B was a little bit further ahead in their struggle, and they had an aha that I brought back. And,
isn't that amazing?
It's scary how often it happens.
Yeah. No, I've experienced a couple of the same things.
Yeah.
It's really fun.
So you're bringing all of those tools and other learning experiences back each week. And not just like what I brought the day I walked in. It's what I bring every day as I'm growing as a leader in each company.
There's a constant growth within you.
Exactly.
For listeners out there that are thinking, is EOS right for my business? What are the symptoms that you see that EOS typically alleviates pretty quickly?
Oh, yeah. Well, certainly there's a bottleneck. They've found success, but they can't duplicate it. They can't grow. The visionary is sitting in too many seats. Usually it's the person who started the business, and at first they could do everything. They had to do everything.
Yep.
And then you grow, you maybe hire one or two people, and you're all doing everything. And then you're stretched and everything's going great. But you're all doing everything. And at a certain point, one person gets sick or one person is out or something happens, and then you start to kind of realize this isn't going to work very long and you can't grow. And your people are tired and they're starting to get overworked. And the visionary owner is saying, I started a business for more freedom. I can't take a day off. I can't get out of the business. The other thing is, and I'm going to say this like really strongly, if you ever think you want to exit your business, EOS is like the answer. Because I've heard terrible stories from people who, their family had a business, but dad, had an untimely death in a car crash or something, and he held all the information.
Yeah.
EOS is this structure for laying out all the repeatable processes and having the communication, having everything set up. So one, as an entrepreneur, you can get that day off. You can get the week off or the month off as you get that freedom. And as a business owner, if you want to hand this down to your kids, or you want to hand this, you want to retire, EOS is really the stepping stone toward that. A lot of people in the exit planning world are gravitating toward EOS, just saying my clients have to do this first before they can really do anything. It's a great model for that. And also tired, overworked.
Yeah.
And that's what we bring. Like, as you alluded to, my husband has since left our business, and he is a fractional integrator as well. And we sat on the business side. We know the hardship. We know being up at night, worrying about those issues and caring for your employees, and really understanding that their welfare depends on you, and you are trying to make all of these decisions. So that's the perspective we bring as fractional integrators. We've sat in that seat, and we can say, this works. We know it. It's not going to be like a very easy process. It's simple. It's not easy, but
simple is never easy.
Yeah, but nothing worth doing is, just easy and simple. You have to work through something hard, and then comes that time where you've made the processes, you've put the right people in the right seats. You can now back up a little bit and have a week off, or have a day off, or have that more family time and work-life balance.
And so it makes me think about, because we've had this conversation, and you're crushing it for a client in the sense of getting all these leads in, right? And then because you're not in that sales role, right, and it's not going in the direction it needs to, all those leads are just going to die. Right. And so all of your efforts, you feel really good about your efforts. Your client feels really good about your efforts. Right. But at the end of the day, like you said, it's not a win unless we converted those leads into sales, right? And so that hurts. Absolutely. And so when there's a feud between marketing and sales, that's a lot of times the reason is because somebody's not holding up their end of the bargain. And it is hard to find good leaders, and especially leaders that connect from that standpoint. And so when we think about it, and we started talking about it, it's really funny. It's just kind of out of the blue. I'm hitting this wall of like, I need help. And then, I reached out to you for coffee, and the night before I was sitting and I was doing dishes, and I was like, man, all these conversations that me and Chris have had about like sitting on that leadership team and being able to play a bigger impact and like, having that voice because you have the experience to be able to improve and impact the quality of the company, because you see things they don't, and you see things from the outsider that they don't from your experience. It's just like I do. Right. It's like, wow, what if we partnered up and started working with companies, and we came in and was their sales and marketing leadership? Absolutely. And we're able to combine what you do from that just engine of driving leads, but I'm working on that end with you, and we have a strategy and a plan to convert those leads into sales, that when there's a campaign, the sales team is ready to go, they're trained and ready to run. And what does that do for a company from an offensive standpoint right out of the gates?
Yep. Absolutely. Well, it puts you in the best position to win, to succeed, right? So if look, all right, so I'm the marketer, right? Growth marketer. And I bring him, I always think of it like a castle, right? I bring him to the front door of your castle, or the company's castle, right? And if that handoff is smoother, you greet him at the door saying, hey, look, I want to show you this amazing castle that we built just for you, right? And that handoff, man, when it's smooth like that, Jason, I mean, the sky's the limit.
It's funny, the simplest thing, the can opener for me to change from being miserable to being happy, the can opener was when someone asks you how you're doing, say, great. It was salesmanship when I started, right? But that simple can opener, I'd go to the grocery store and buy that bag of chips and that 7-Up, and the cashier would go, how are you today? And I would go, I'm doing great. And they would look up, right? Yes. And shocked, right?
Yes.
Well, what? And then I go, how are you doing? And they would say, mumble something. And I go, well, what would make that better? And all of a sudden you're in a conversation where you're helping them. And I would leave these stupid conversations where I spent $3.47 on a snack, and I'd be like, well, I feel great. And maybe, just maybe, either they thought I was nuts or they were doing great too. But it was proof positive that you can be intentional about happiness. You don't have to wait for it to come to you. You choose it, and then everything builds on that.
Just how you reply. And it's not like, there's like faking it till you make it. It's like, I'm great.
Right there.
But there's like what you're saying.
See your facial expression.
I'm great. Yeah. Everything's wonderful. There's like the passive aggressive, like you don't believe it, but then what you're saying is like, I'm great.
Yep.
Because you're creating it into existence before it even starts. And our words are so powerful. What we say, how we react. And so when we go out in the world and we're energetic and we say we're great, first off, other people are popping up their heads and noticing, because that's how many people, my biggest pet peeve in the world is when I ask somebody how they're doing and they say, not too bad. Nick, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Not too bad.
Fine.
Like, what is that? Like yesterday you were chewing glass. Today you're not. Not too bad. Yesterday was a disaster.
Good news. It's going up from here.
It's going up from here. Not too bad. That's like the most common answer you'll get. My number one pet peeve when I go into a business and ask somebody working in a business, how's it going today? And they say, not too busy. Like, is that a good thing? Like, are you going to have a job next week? I don't know. Not too busy.
They're not creating a positive environment for themselves.
No.
Right.
But that's the average.
Yeah.
That's the average. And so when somebody is out there and they're just enthusiastic and they say, great, it piques curiosity because it goes, you're now not just responding to boring average language. It's like shaking up the pattern interrupt.
Love it. Love it. Listen, man, I might go a little unhinged here, but life is a gift. Like I don't know, people say it in crazy different ways, but the atoms or the vibrations came together and they somehow created a possibility, and that's why you and I are here today, right?
Yeah. Our
time is limited, but our opportunities are unlimited. The limit is us, the way we see things. And so as you say, that average, boy, to me, that's a travesty. That's a damn shame.
Yes.
That there's so many people living in misery or in futility when they really don't have to. So somewhere along the line, it became a little bit of a mission of mine to try to give people a little boost, right? To get them a little happier about their day, a little more excited, and let them know that there's a possibility of something else. And it turns out that whatever little tiny bit of juice I give them comes back to me a thousandfold, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't set out to be selfish about it, but happily it's paid off in a big way.